evening, everyone. And once again, we are here at the Book Talk podcast, Author Visibility, and I'm your host, Dana Nicole. So we have another special guest with us this evening. This is Andre Prim, and he is
Yes, ma'am.
going to share with us where he's from, a little bit about himself, and the book he will talk about today. So, Andre, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hey, I'm Andre L. Prim. You got to make sure you use that L because there are some other Andre Prims who are in the
Oh,
industry also. So, my book, Toxic Village, I just self published this January 12th. It's a book that's a memoir that's about my life, some things I've been through here in the Seattle area, Seattle Seahawks. We about to win that bowl. So anyway, my book is basically roughly the first 25 years of my life and some of the ups and downs trying to be a person who was coming of age during the 90s and the crack era and the challenges that we had to maneuver and the bad relationships or at least the bad tools of navigating through relationships that we didn't have at the time. Just trying to figure out the problems of being a father, being a high school young father, or at least a person who took on the responsibility of being a high school father at 19. Some of the things that I've engaged in, activities, and my criminal past. Just a lot of things that I've had to overcome over the last 25 years to be here, to be able to sit down here and actually write this book. I remember when I was 15, they told us that the life expectancy of an African American man was to be 18. We'd be lucky to get to 18. And with that being the case, a lot of us didn't really think of a future. A lot of us didn't plan for a future. And when we did, sometimes we got ourselves caught up in places that we didn't recognize. I joined the military coming out of high school after, doing the street thing for a while and realized that, I was homesick and had some issues, and that all that's in the book. But that's just a little bit about me. The book itself is a therapy session for me. It is something that helped me reconnect with my children. Basically being able to explain some of the things that I've done and an apology to my daughter's mother and some of the people who I've hurt along the way. But I'm a older, wiser person today than what I was then. And I just figured like, hey, it's something to share with y'all. Hopefully it helps somebody figure out that they don't have to take the same path that I did and maybe have some detours. I guess that's just a little bit about me at this point.
okay.
So,
Okay. Thank you for that. So, what was the hardest part about releasing the book, or was it a challenge, or was it hard at all?
so the challenge comes in as being, again, I'm a first time author. I don't know this industry. I'm learning this industry. I can type away like everybody else can throw 140 characters on Facebook and come up with all these long different messages and things like that. But trying to figure out how to actually get this thing out was the hard part. And you have so many different outlets and alternatives to try to get your message or your word out. And it feels like those places that are trying to be of help um, are basically trying to figure out how they can take every dollar that they can out of your pocket. And again, I'm a man that gets up and goes to work every day. I'm trying to take care of a house and a home with a wife and kids. And realistically, um, I don't have a lot of money. So what they're asking for is they want to see if you got $2,000, $3,000 just to put out a book. And once you realize is that, man, I can go to KDP and just put it up myself, and it ain't gonna cost me nothing. I can go to Lulu or Books By or all these Instagram or excuse me, what's it, Ingram Sparks,
Yes.
and put the book up, and it doesn't cost me anything. The only thing that I'm going to be doing is giving them a cut of whatever I'm taking, and having taken a cut off of the top of whatever you got isn't too hard to understand, especially when you come from a background and street environment like myself. I understand that if I pay a little something, I get a little something back. That's just kind of how it works. Um, you know, my book is not necessarily the most refined thing that it could be because yeah, I had to do it all myself, and I'm learning some of this stuff, and there's revisions going to be coming between now and within the next year to make sure that it all is exactly the way it wanted it to be. But I had to get my story out. I had to be able to tell people what the things I've been through, and it's been a nagging situation to do it. But it's like I say, that's the challenge. The challenge is just trying to figure out who to trust and who to deal with.
Yes, yeah, absolutely understand that. As a being a new author myself, that those could be challenging. So, have you always wanted to be an author, or like you said, as you went through life and got a little older, you wanted to share your story?
It's funny because it's not something that I've always dreamed of doing. The funny thing is, you know, I remember being a kid in high school and having creative writing classes, and we did drama and all these things, and we used to have to write these little plays and these little things out. And the teacher always just say, "Well, Andre, you're special." And it was like the first time really I ever remember in school that anybody ever told me that I had any type of talent or I was special at anything. I'm an ordained elder, so writing on a regular basis isn't a hard thing because it's something that I do as far as for teaching purposes or for sermon purposes. Those are things that I've gone through, but it's like it's not something that like I feel like this nagging urge until lately to actually get this thing out. And matter of fact, I have not just this, but this is the first book, and this is a nonfiction book. I have four more books that are in some form or process of being written currently. So I'm just, like I say, I found the bug, and I found something that um, I have a desire to do, and I'm working at it at this point.
That's great to hear. So, what moment forced you to grow as an author? Because I know you
Hmm.
at first you had mentioned the nonfiction book, and now you're ready to go ahead and move forward with
Mm-hmm.
more books. So, at what moment did you realize that, hey, I think I want to pursue this a little more?
I think I was so doing a nonfiction book was frustrating, right? And the frustration with that is I'm going through and I'm talking about different points and parts of my life, right? And so that doesn't all come out as, oh, I was born and then this and then this and then this. It's I remember this and I remember this and I remember this and how that thing, went. So what I found out is that it was difficult doing just the nonfiction. And those are things that you should remember, you should know, like out of the back of your hand. But it gave me the idea. It was like, you know what, if I can pull all this stuff together, there's some other stuff that I would like to write about. I can actually take this and I can write it from the beginning to the end as a fiction book. There are some issues and things that have happened in our country within the last 6 months to 8 months that have me also writing. Again, being a minister, there's some things that have touched me that I really think that we should be talking about. One of the books that I'm writing currently is called Toxic Ministry. One of the other ones is called Toxic Americans. Those are ones that are basically kind of community editorials, more so than just fiction. The fiction books that I'm doing right now is there's a toxic minds, and then Toxic Angel. Those are the fiction books that I'm working on. The desire to do that came from being in the midst of saying, you know what, if I can really articulate my own story, maybe I could come up with something and articulate a make believe story. There's nothing that you see that's in writing or in print currently that did not get inspired by something that has happened either in the author's lives or something that they've heard about somewhere that they put on paper and they put into a story. Yeah, some of the twists might be different, some of the things might have changed, but those things are just based on people's experiences. And so for me, going back, looking at some of my experiences, I think about it and I say, that could have went very differently. And I may have not been here, or somebody else may have not been here. So those are the kind of things that just kind of push me to think, hey, you can actually do this. And so as I started, it started to make sense. And I had some people start reading some of the Toxic Minds. I'm seven chapters into writing that thing. And I had to back up because I'm like, let me look at the plot again to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that I'm in the
Yeah.
right spot. The plot is what holds the whole thing together. It is the book. So for that, I'm just, I just feel like right now I'm in a different space and a different frame of mind, and a different frame of thinking that's allowing me to put pen to pad to come up with new and different ideas about things that I've either seen or things that I would like to see.
Yes, I feel the same way. So my first novel uh, in 2024 was fiction. I have a
Mm.
fiction romantic drama. And then after that, I worked with some women on an anthology. It's a self-help book for moms. And doing the
Mm-hmm.
nonfiction book was the most difficult because I had to be
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable. In a fiction, I can make things up. You know, this is what's
Mm-hmm.
going on and this is the love affair. But in
Yep.
the nonfiction about my life, that was the hardest. So I
Yeah.
understand exactly because I got to share. You know, I got to tell people like I really got to be vulnerable and talk about my life as a mom and things that kind of went on. So I um I agree with you on that. I know exactly what you're saying.
And it's I mean, honestly, just doing the nonfiction book, there's days that I was in tears and I had to write about just being in tears because, as a father and as a black man, just in general, I didn't grow up with my father. So one of the things was I always wanted to be there for my kids. Well, me and my daughter's mother split up the first year after the first year of my daughter's life. So there is a difference between how my oldest daughter was raised and my son, who has lived in the house with me and my wife his whole life. And so there's a difference in how they see and view the relationship that we have. And based on that, I have tears because as I go back and I look at the Toxic Village and I'm writing Toxic Village, I realize and I have to be honest about a lot of the mistakes that I made and the things that I did wrong in the relationship that created the rift, that created the inevitable situation of us being separate. It's, it, you know, I grew up, I was raised by moms. My mother was here and my grandmother was here to make sure that I graduated from high school, make sure I was finished and, getting my education the way I was supposed to. And my mom was the one who chased me up and down the street and pulling me off the corner from time to time doing the wrong thing. So when it comes to the moms, I really have a heart for them because, yeah, I recognize, man, I did a lot of knucklehead, hardhead stuff that caused my mom some pain and some grief. And if I could do anything to help change that, I would. And again, to hear that the collective of women who have sat down and written a book about motherhood, it ain't always about those little diaper changing days and the sleepless nights and the sicknesses and all that stuff and school houses trying to figure out why the grades ain't. Man, it's does my son have a pistol in my house underneath my mattress? It was that type of thing that I was dealing with and drugs and all kinds of different things that was happening around me as a youngster. And the girls that you snuck in and out the house and people's dads beating on the door talking about, hey, I know my daughter was there and my mom's worried about whether or not she's going to get taken to jail for the delinquency of contributing to the delinquency of a minor.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So yes, kudos to moms and love them to death for being the ones who actually hold us down. The first person that's always got your back seems to be mom,
Yes.
and I'm always going to appreciate that.
So what's one thing you wish or hoping that the readers or the authors will take from your book?
I think the one thing is that the way your life starts out and the way that it goes or starts to go, it may have started in one direction, but it doesn't have to stay in that direction. You can course correct at any point in time and you can figure it out and you can get it together. I think the ultimate goal for this book was for me to actually talk about redemption, me being a redeemed person, the fixing of the crooked ways that I had, and what all that entails from time to time. I was a person who lied, stole, and did all kinds of stuff. And I met my wife, and my wife was the catalyst for a lot of my change. And I still to this day remember being in that car riding to church and hearing the voice tell me, says, the circumstances of your life were not by coincidence, but they were designed. So to understand that, I knew she was here for a purpose. I knew she was here to help me clean up some of the pieces of my past that needed cleaning. I give all glory to God and I give all honors to my wife for being the one who actually walked through a lot of this stuff with me. You don't have to be stuck. You can change the path that you're on. It is in your hands. It is in your power to be better as a man, as a woman, as a person in general. It's there. It's in your hands. You know, don't be a victim. Victimhood is
Yes.
not something that we are guaranteed to be stuck in. It is a mindset, and it's just a willingness to change. And I think
Yes.
for me, I've been willing to change based on the fact that I have somebody to push me to change, and I'm thankful.
And so, what did this book, would you say, teach you about yourself?
It's taught me that I'm a very resilient person. You know, the ability to bounce back, the ability to really look at yourself. I found out that I'm very analytical. It's taught me that I see myself, I think, worse than my worst critics at times. But I see myself as being able to accept the boy that I was in becoming the man that I am, learning for myself through a lot of counseling and through a lot of conversations that, yeah, I'm very resilient. I can bounce back. I'm accountable and I'm vulnerable at the same time. And I think being honest about the things that you've been through and not romanticizing and glorifying the things that you may have done, it actually is very cathartic and therapeutic for a person.
So, where can listeners connect with you and support your work?
Man, okay. So look, you can meet me, you can meet me over at Andre L Prim, all one word.com is my webpage. You can find me on Facebook. I accept all friends and followers and everything else. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, just Andre Prim. You find Andre L Prim, and you can catch me there. Also, Toxic City Podcast, which is coming out on YouTube. That is on the high toxicity page of the YouTube page. Come check us out, man.
Yes, it has been a journey. I agree with the publishing and just,
Yeah.
like you said, figuring things out.
The funniest thing is the book, right? And the book is trying to put it on, like if we're trying to put it on Amazon or you're trying to put it on Ingram Sparks, they talk about the spine and the calculations between how many pages you have and how wide the spine
Mm.
has to be. And if that thing is off, man, they give you so much grief. I had to sit down with a lady that I work with, and the first thing I had finished before anything else was the cover of the book. It was ready, and it was the longest thing that kept me from finishing what I wanted to do was just the cover. So I'm just thankful that I have those people around me to help.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Andre, I want to thank you for taking your time out to speak with me today, to speak to your audience. I want to let the audience know that I want you to like, follow, comment, and share the podcast when it's available. And again, Andre, I really appreciate you taking the time out to share with us about your book, Toxic Village. Correct.
Yes, ma'am. Danny, I want to also thank you for what you do because authors need the opportunity to be able to be seen. You know, without being seen, none of these things happen. None of this stuff moves the way it needs to. So you are the lifeline and the lifeblood of what we do as writers. So I appreciate everything that you're doing at this point in time.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And we follow each other now, so I'll be
Ma'am.
looking out for that next book.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Danny. I appreciate you.
All right, thank you.